From the Fathead Studio in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny.
Oh, there you are, sweet Jesus. Come back to Papa.
The highs and lows, are just can be pretty brutal, that place. But, I think that's what is so fun about it is the challenges.
I saw Will Power smack the wall out of 4 with 10 to go. He's still going.
Dixon?
No. Connor.
Oh, Connor, yeah.
Yeah, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, Connor, and, you got to pick a direction, pal, and I'll stick with you.
Oh, I don't know. You lose track about halfway through.
I go to move when it's full of methanol. Both of them are full of methanol. Pop, big bang. I turn around and the glasses are smoking. And he goes, whoa, good thing you gave me those, right?
I'm Scott Dixon.
I'm Antron Brown.
Hey, I'm Ron Cap.
I'm Connor Daly.
I'm James Hinchcliffe.
I am Davey Hamilton, and this is The Skinny.
Welcome to The Skinny. I'm Ken Stout. Rico Elmore has joined me here at the desk. We have Michael Young, the track dude, running all the controls. And the guy sitting alongside, well, he's owned racetracks. He's owned race teams. He has owned race series. He races. His father races. His uncle races. His son races. We're talking about Davey Hamilton.
We got it covered.
And you finished as high as second of the points in IndyCar, and I don't even know if you know how many championships you've won as super modifieds.
Well, at one point, I had 17 championships between USAC, West Coast stuff, sprint cars, midgets, and super modifieds. Most of them are super modifieds, but had a lot of them racked up. I had at one point also had 20-some track records back in the day before all these great short tracks disappeared, out there. So, yeah.
Really, where you cut your teeth?
It's where it all happened for me. Started in Idaho. How many racers come out of Idaho? So I was very fortunate to be able to make a career out of motorsports from a small city of Boise in the state of Idaho, which we only have one racetrack right there and one pavement track, and cut my teeth there and then hit the road. Started sleeping in my El Camino and driving around the country,
Life
getting
is
rides,
good.
and that life was good, man. Life was good.
So if the information is correct that I read, you started off with a 6-cylinder car.
6-cylinder, yeah. It was a offset modified, not like the big ones, like a 6-inch offset modified older car. Had a straight 6 with a 1-barrel, and that was like the beginner class at that time. So, my dad, he didn't really want me to race. Obviously, he knows the struggles and the dangers and everything that go along with it.
And how much it would cost him.
How much it would cost him, right? and remember, he was still super active. When I was wanting to race, he was winning everything. He was the guy.
And let's touch on him just for a quick second. He wasn't just racing. We're talking about a guy that competed at Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, right. So he was trying to get an IndyCar himself, made it, but didn't make it on a full-time basis. He tried to do it out of his own pocket. He did drive for Rolla Volstead out of Oregon, a few IndyCar races. But he in the sprint cars, and he was the guy in super modifieds. He was the guy to beat all the time. So he was so focused on his career, he didn't really have time to do mine, and I to help me. So he kind of pushed it off, and he said, "Well, if you want to do it, you gotta go do it on your own." And so my mom actually bought my first car. My dad did not know that at the time, but
awesome.
So my
Does
mom,
he know now?
Yeah, he knows now. Yeah. So my mom bought my first car. I think we paid $1,800 for it, and that was that 6-cylinder modified. And when my dad, I had it, and he's seen it. He goes, "Ooh, that thing's rough," And so he says, "Get it to the shop." So once I had it, he started helping. So we took a winter.
Guilted him right into it.
Yeah, guilted right. I ran one race in it, and the season was over. So that winter we rebuilt it, and he put his magic to it and made it good. And then we started helping. And as a rookie, not that I was really naturally good, but the car was so good that I was able to be Rookie of the Year. I set the track record and won the championship all my very first year racing. And like I say, it wasn't me 100% because the car was better. It was better than everybody else's. He just knew how to make him go fast. And how I know it wasn't all me, because then I moved up to the V8 cars the next year, and I was a disaster. I was hitting everything in sight, man. So it took me a little while to learn the extra horsepower. I didn't have a great car. I actually was driving for a guy. Fortunately, a guy hired me to drive his car.
How old were you then?
I was 17, so I was 18, just almost 19, 18 going on 19.
Were you competing against your father when you stepped up?
Yeah,
into
so when I
next
stepped
class?
up, I was competing against my dad.
So no more help from Dad?
No more help, really. Obviously, he was always there. He knew I wasn't going to beat him. My equipment wasn't good enough to beat him at that time. And back then, what was great is I was so happy to make the B main. That's how many cars.
The B main.
The B main. It's like man, we're in the B main. We're not in the C main. We're in the B main. So that's how many cars used to show up back then. So I was just like, just wanting to be with him. So I really didn't get a race against him for a while until I found some speed. And then, the phone started ringing. I started doing better and better. And wasn't winning, but our series out there was called the Canadian American Racing Association. They called it CAMRA. That was the big series. That was like the USAC or whatever out on the West Coast. So I was Rookie of the Year the first year in that, and it caught some attention. I was somewhat competitive, and then the phone started ringing to start driving for some other guys, and that's where I got my car and took that, just started driving all over the country, and wherever a race was, I was there to drive.
I would have to think that your father paved that path for you. I mean, having that same name and him having the success he had.
Well, without a doubt. I mean, if it wasn't for him, right?
So did you ever show up and they were like, "You're not the right Davey"?
So I'll back up just a little bit too, because of after that first year of driving, I decided when I got out of high school, I moved to Fresno, California, because I wanted to learn how to build race cars. So I went to work for Dave Masterman, who was building the cars. So I go, if I'm going to drive these things, I better figure out how they work, how you do it. So I was fabricating. I mean, I was learn how to run the lathes, the mills, bend tubing, weld, do all the stuff. And I thought, well, if I get to California, this is the builder. This is everybody wants his cars in the super modified ranks. So if I go there, maybe there's some opportunity. I'll meet all these guys. And there was a team called K&K Racing, and Ken Rathman, Ken Hell, that they ordered a new car. And I told them, I go, man, hey, if you need a driver, I'll be your guy. They go, well, here's the thing. We have a driver. But last year, he said the motor wasn't very good. So we bought a new motor for him. And then he said, well, the motor's good now, but the car's no good. That's why we're not racing. So now we're buying a new car. So we're going to give him an opportunity to do it. But if he's not doing well, then we'll think about changing. I go, well, keep me in mind. I built this car. I helped build it, obviously. And I want to be your guy. And, it was middle of the summer. The Dave Masterman goes, hey, Ken Rathman's on the phone, wants to talk to you. I go, holy, this could be it, because they're not doing good. The driver, he hasn't really improved. And they called me one of my dad's phone number. I go, what the?
Dagger in the heart.
That was
right?
a dagger. So you know what happened? I gave him my dad's phone number. He gets the ride, and I move home. I said, this ain't working. I moved back to Idaho, right, to try to figure out something on my own. And then he went on to win the USAC when USAC was the super modified sanctioning. He won the USAC championship, and he was back to winning everything again in that car, and he had the best of everything. And but without a doubt, without him, right, leading the path, knowing that he had the talent, they seen some in me, some of these guys, and I didn't have funding. It was purely people that wanted a driver. Well, I didn't drive for free. That at least had to pay my gas to get there sometimes. But anyways, yeah, that's how it worked. Just started from the ground up.
As you can see, he has a great personality. He has a ton of stories because he has a ton of experience, and we're going to get some more out of him when we come back.
On lap 47, I took the lead of that race. With 3 laps to go, it was a 50-lapper. I took the lead, and on lap 48 and a half, I ran out of fuel, and I'm the one that put the fuel in.
The Skinny is brought to you by Toyota. Toyota, let's go places. Lucas Oil. Lucas Oil, keep that engine alive. General Tire. General Tire delivers. And Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04.
Welcome back to the Skinny. We're in Speedway, Indiana, just down the street from the place known as Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a guy that is very, very familiar with that racetrack, a true love for it in your life. You've been there as a race car driver. You've been there as a team owner. Your father, as we talked about, dug hard to make his way in there as well. What was it like growing up with a father that was that embedded in motorsports? And we touched on you getting started there in the super modifieds. Was that a dream of yours early on, or were you just happy with the super modifieds and knowing that there was a lot of room to grow?
Well, really started when I was I should have started earlier in motorsports and cars, but as a kid growing up with all my buddies, go-karts back in that day, they weren't like we have today.
Right.
They weren't very good. They were like the yard-built go-karts, the Briggs, and they had some decent stuff, but they weren't around. There really wasn't a track around there to run them. So I actually got into motocross because you can go buy a motorcycle, mini bikes and stuff that were pretty good, and then all my friends I went to school with were going motocross racing. So I followed that lead and started racing motocross. And all through junior high and high school, that's what I did. I wanted to be
So you had your eyes on Hurricane Hannah. You're going to go get you some?
It's funny because speaking of Hurricane Hannah, he moved to Idaho. And he lived right down the road.
So he wanted to be like you.
Well, yeah, eventually. So I'll get to that. He did actually, but I wanted to be like him, but it didn't work out. And but I went to a race. He raced at our. He was the guy back then.
Yo,
right?
absolutely.
And so he comes to Idaho. He comes to our local track. And when I'm running our track, I was a top 3 guy mostly. There was a couple really good guys that I actually made some semi-pro appearances. And I was determined to be good at it. And then Hannah shows up one time to race. And after I seen him race and fly over the top of me, over like this jump, that I said, okay, I better get the race cars because this isn't going to work out. You know what I mean? This guy is, he was so good, obviously, and then riding with him and get to know him I just felt I just knew I didn't have it. So I thought at that point I'm going to try the race car deal. And then my dad really didn't want to support me. And that's when my mom bought the car. But later in life, let's go on. When Hannah retires, he's still in Idaho. I moved back from California. I started building some cars. I built some micros and some sprint cars actually for some local guys there. So Hannah calls. He wants a micro. He wants to, because micro racing was getting pretty big. So
How's he going to get in a micro? What was he, like 6'6"?
No, the micros like today. Adults could run.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had different sizes, different size engines, and I go, well, you get. I'll get the cars. You get the motors, because he had that tie-in, with Yamaha at the time, and so he was furnished with motors.
Still flying the colors.
It's funny. I have this shirt on. It's old school Yamaha shot from our buddy in Idaho. Actually, it's pretty funny. And so, anyways, we got to be friends with Hannah and built him a race car. And he was on the dirt track up there one time, and he actually was pretty fast. He did good. And one race, I'm watching him, and he comes down the back straightaway, and he goes outside of a guy, and he catches the right rear, and he flips, down the straightaway, and he gets out. He was okay, and he goes, "Did you see what happened there?" I go, "Yeah, I seen you caught that wheel." But I go, "You're not on a motorcycle. I mean, you weren't gonna make it to that hole. A motorcycle barely would have made it through that hole. So you got to have a little more room in these." So he goes, "Yeah, I thought I'd give it a shot." Anyway, so he was quite a guy. He still lives there. He's still an Idaho guy, and I think he still trains some of the riders, and has a beautiful place. Has his own runway at his house along the Boise River there and stuff. So after that, basically. My route was race cars. After I decided motorcycles wasn't going to cut it, and then that's kind of where I started in the straight six division, and then, like I say, got into sprint cars, and that it's tough. I didn't just go winning right off. Matter of fact, I have a picture, and it's my dad has a car, the famed Pink Lady. It was a 1967 Grant King. Still has that car. I'm sure it's won more sprint car races than any race car in the country, because everybody throws them away. That thing's still around.
Is that the car you guys redid?
Yeah, it's all fresh.
You redid
it's
that and something else. I remember.
Yeah, it's all fresh. He's still.
Yeah.
You got to tell the whole story, because it's actually ended up pretty cool, because he doesn't own it anymore, right? But he still has it.
So how it happened was. My dad always. Well, we were at Irwindale Speedway for a King of the Wing sprint car race, and this is about 5 or 6 years ago. And there were 32 cars there, and he was 16th. He was right in the middle of speed. So I go, how's it going? He goes, yeah, pretty good. I go, well, you're 16th. Like. He goes, you see the car right there? Yeah. He says, someday that's yours. You want it to look like that? Or you want me to try to go a little quicker? I go, it looks good. Looks good right there. I guess. And I have to remember.
Sounds great.
I have to remember it's a 1967 built race car competing against all the new stuff. And it just has that magic to it. And so a few years ago, he calls me and goes, hey, when I told you that was your car someday? Yeah. He goes, well, the guy wants to buy it. I go, oh, what's the deal? And he told me this guy just had a passion, watched him as a kid, and loved that car, and he wanted to buy it. And I go, well, here's the thing, he probably, a guy like that, I don't mind having it, but I want first rider. If he ever sells it, I want to buy it, right? And so that's the deal we made. So not only did he buy the Pink Lady, he bought the 1964 Pink Lady before that, and there was another Roadster before that is in a museum out in Paso Robles he's trying to buy. So he has 2 of the 3 Pink Ladies, and then my dad was still racing. He goes, man, I know you're out there racing that thing, but man, it makes me nervous. It's my car now. He goes, why don't we build you a new car so I don't have to worry about watching it? So they built him a brand new sprint car. So my dad's 81 years old, out racing wing sprint cars still. Crazy. And then just a few weeks ago, there was a Pink Lady Classic in Idaho. he was driving his old super modified and the Pink Lady, and won in the Pink Lady in the vintage race. And then ran third, I think, in the super modified. At 81, he's jumping out of one car, running over the other one. And and that's the good thing about vintage in sprint cars and short track stuff. It's go. These guys go for it. It's go for it. I mean, they're racing. They're out there racing hard, and
it's wing pavement.
Now,
stuff.
so in the vintage, they took the wing off.
Okay.
So it's back like it was in USAC days, back in the early days, because he runs that car with a wing or without a wing. And so he goes for it. Matter of fact, there's a race coming up in Vegas, a super modified race. He called me just before I came in here and want some new shocks and stuff to go race the super modified in Vegas here the first part of December.
Yeah, I'm going to tag this segment with something real quick. You mentioned before, I think it was 2015, because I remember Robert was running with you at the time, Robert and DJ in the field at Meridian, which is the track that he owned and knows all so well. And we all were qualifying there at the Pink Lady Classic, and he was qualified P5.
Yeah.
I remember him inside of the P5, and I think DJ and Robert were behind him, and we're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
79 years old, and he's kicking everybody's butt out there.
Crazy.
Pretty amazing.
So I was so proud of him. You know, I mean, he's happy. He loves doing what he does. And one thing, the Pink Lady, and this is about 10 years ago, I had a local sponsor in Idaho that asked me to come back, that they'd pay me to come and run the track. And I go, that'd be great, but I don't have a car. I don't. So I called my dad and I said, hey, you got a spare car? Because he, at that point, was driving for somebody else. And the Pink Lady was just kind of sitting there. And he goes, yeah. I go, I don't want to drive the Pink Lady. I mean, I'm not going to do that. That thing's old and decrepit and hasn't been ran for a while. He goes, it'd be fine. And I go, nah, I'm not going to do it. And he goes, well, okay, you can run my new one. I'll run that one. So we get there, and the first night he goes, hey, I'm in the championship lead, and I really like to run the new car just so I could try to tie this championship up. So can you run the Pink Lady the first night? I go, Dad, come on, man. I get in that thing. It's that scoop with the windshield and the injector sticking out there, like old sprint car. I go, all right, but I'm going to drive the new one the next night. And he goes, yeah, we'll switch. Well, I go out and set a track record in the Pink Lady. This is only 10, 11 years ago, right? Set a track record in that thing. And then I go out and they inverted 12. So I started 12th. On lap 47, I took the lead of that race. With 3 laps to go, it was a 50 lapper. I took the lead, and on lap 48 and a half, I ran out of fuel. And I'm the one that put the fuel in. But the tanks are so old in that car. It's a fiberglass cover with a metal tank in it. And so I was using the same stick we used in all the, well, when it said it had 30 gallons, it really only had 20. So I almost won a race in that damn thing. It's amazing. Crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
At least he owned it. He put the fuel in it.
Yeah, I did. That was me.
Davey Hamilton with us here on The Skinny. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
So I tell Sims, like, well, Sims, you cost my dad a ride, man. Now, right? And he goes, but I got you one, so, which is true. He definitely helped me get to Indy. No question about it. Simpson was a big part of my success and get me to the Speedway.
Welcome back to The Skinny. We're all smiling because Michael just had a good idea, which, it's a fairly rare moment, but
Extremely rare.
but it does make us laugh, so we enjoy it. Welcome back to The Skinny. Davey Hamilton sitting on the set, and if you were with us right before we went to break, he was in the middle of a story talking about driving the Pink Lady. Didn't want to drive it. His father had a new car, had the Pink Lady. You were in the original, wanted to drive the new one. He said, nah, I'm in the hunt for the championship. So night one, you drive it, but
so actually at night one I set the track record.
You set the track record.
I set the track record that night, and actually that first night it was fast in the race, but it was about 10 laps in, a brake line wore through on the rotor, so I didn't finish the first night. So then my dad asked me, "Hey, we switching tonight?" I go, "Tomorrow night." I go, "No, I'm good." I said, this thing's a bullet. I'm good. So the next night we go out, and that's he out qualified me. I ended up third quick the second night, and but I got the lead on lap. That's when I got the lead on lap 47 and ran out of fuel on 48 and a half out of a 50 lapper. So
Who
almost
won it?
It wasn't my dad.
Okay.
It wasn't him. It was a guy out of Washington. I can't remember his name, but my dad ran third that night, and he said that. Here, this is dad talk. He goes, you know what? I probably could have won that race if I wasn't watching you so much, right? He goes, I was having fun watching you go through the field in that Pink Lady, right, and that thing. So I'm not even paying attention. You'd pass the car, and I'd pass the car just so I could keep track. And I go, and that's what happens.
Well, wait a minute. Why didn't you finish the race?
Because I ran out of fuel. That's when I ran. That's actually because I didn't put enough in it. Is the bottom line. But like I said, I have an excuse because I'm not used to that old fuel tank that was in that thing. I was using the fuel stick that he had in his car, and I just, I thought that I had more in it than it said, and
Has he had it from start to finish?
So he actually, in 1967, how became the Pink Lady is a guy named Art Sugai, Chinese gentleman and his wife, Midori. They were in Ontario, Oregon, which is only about 40 miles from Boise, just across the border. But he actually drove for him. And just the history of that Pink Lady a little bit as well is Tom Seneva's driven it. Jerry Seneva's driven it. And so there's a few guys, but my dad was really the guy. Once they had my dad, and he was local, and they started winning a lot of races. And I make this because he deserves it. In 19, we can look at the year really easy because I'll tell you who was rookie of the year that year. But Art Sugai wanted to go IndyCar racing with my dad, so he gathered some people up, put money in to go get him IndyCar. So he had all the commitments. He goes like, we got enough people, we're going to do it. So he calls the guy that he's buying the car from, and they're making the deal. And when it comes time to pay, a couple of Art's guys backed out, and he didn't have enough more money to buy the car. So he calls my dad and says, "Man, I'm sorry, the couple guys backed out. We're not going to have enough money." My dad said, "Well, we tried." So he called the guy that owned the IndyCar, and said, "Hey, I came up short. Still like to do it, but we can't do it right now. It just came up short." And he goes, "How much short are you?" And I don't know the numbers, from back then. And the guy that owned the car said, "How about this? You give me that money, but my driver drives the Indy 500. I want my driver in it for the Indy 500. Then after that, it's yours, and you can do what you want." So my dad, "Well, why not? What do I got to lose? I mean, let's do it." Well, that was a guy named Rick Mears.
That guy.
And the guy he bought the car from was one of my best pals, Bill Simpson, who helped me get into IndyCar racing.
You're kidding me.
No. So I don't know this until later on. I didn't know all this story. So I tell Simpson, "Simpson, you cost my dad a ride, man." Now, right? And he goes, "But I got you one," so which is true. He definitely helped me get to Indy. No question about it. Simpson was a big part of my success and get me to the Speedway. So I go, what a small world, right? That was Bill Simpson that Art Sugai's dealing with, and later on helps me get there. And Rick Mears was in, if you look back, he's got a yellow helmet. I got a picture of it, and him standing there with Art Sugai. And now they did not make the race that year. So Rick Mears, as a rookie, did not make this race. The next year, Roger Penske hires him.
Oh, wow.
And so my dad and Art took that car. They started running some other races. They ran on the West Coast, some in IndyCar and the F5000 series, which those cars were legal to do. And just kind of ran out of money. It just takes money. They couldn't really put a full program together, but that's, kind of a cool story of how it all kind of relates back to the people we know and how to get to Indy.
Crazy stuff. The webs we weave, it is pretty wild. This man has been in and out of them and circled around some of the absolute best. We'll have some more stories from him in just a moment.
But yeah, he actually tagged the wall. It's been 2 or 3 different times, but every time they go, "Hey, Mario, you got the one?" He goes, "That was Davey." It wasn't me. They go, "No, they said it was you." And then the last time I was sitting in the pit, I wasn't even in the car. I don't think it was. Yeah, with Davey. I go, "I'm standing right here."
The Skinny is brought to you by Lucas Oil. Lucas Oil, keep that engine alive. Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04. Toyota, let's go places. And General Tire. General Tire delivers.
Welcome back to the Skinny. Ken Stout, Rico, Elmore. We have the track dude back there, and we have Davey Hamilton sitting right alongside. We love Davey. Lives just about 20 minutes or so away. We constantly bump into each other around the house here. Super cool to have you bump back into the stadium, or the studio here again. And you were just talking about Rick Mears and his Rookie of the Year, 78. It's a unique year because he was co-Rookie of the Year with Larry Rice in that particular year as well.
Yeah, and that was when, so it was 77, at 78 he was rookie, so 77 is when he drove the Pink Lady, didn't make the race, right? So he was a rookie that year, but didn't make it. So small world, man. And look what Rick's done. I know, what a guy, what a driver.
Oh my goodness.
And we another really cool thing is we raced in Bakersfield. That's where he was from. That's where his brother and dad from. And so we raced sprint cars out there. So we went out to the shop, and I'm a kid going around, what's all these off-road buggies? I didn't care about the sprint cars at that point. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't Rick, but I'm pretty sure it was Roger that took me for a ride in one of their buggies. We just got in one and took off. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. It was probably, if you look at it today, you probably wouldn't even get in it because they're so old and outdated and stuff. But that was the Mears Gang. I got a Mears Gang shirt
that's right. Yeah,
as a kid. And I'd wear it around. Didn't know how cool it was until later in life, right?
I was chatting with him at the Speedway during the 500 one year, and he said my father was really born in the wrong time, just too soon.
Yeah.
He said if my father had the technology and the wherewithal whenever things got better to run out in the desert, he said he would have been better than anybody.
Yeah. And that was their love, right? I mean, and I really don't know how he transformed into oval cars or race cars, because I don't remember him driving sprint cars. I don't know if he just went from off-road to Indy. I don't know how that happened. Obviously, Bill Simpson could tell us that story if he was alive, unfortunately.
It'd be nice if he came on the skinny and gave it to
Well,
us.
I was thinking the same exact thing. And you know what? And he would. He's a super dude.
Yeah,
I bet you we get Rick on here.
So I have to call Rick too.
I didn't see him at the 500 this year.
So-
I mean, it's one of the few times I didn't see him go up. Typically when we spot in turn 3, he's the last one up because he's in the Heroes parade. And then he's the last one to come up. And everybody in turn 3 in the grandstand stands up and claps for him when he goes to the top to the catwalk.
Yeah.
But I didn't see him this year.
What do they do for you?
They just laugh.
So
They laugh and point.
So I'm getting a hold of Rick too, and as Michael knows, since we do radio together on the IndyCar network, this last year came up with a segment called A Minute with Mario. So every race, we come up with questions amongst us, and fans could to write in and ask questions about Mario, which was a great segment. Great. It was like we had a lot of fun with that this year. Well, now I would like to do a minute with Mears. So
yeah.
I'm gonna hit him up if he sees this. That's the next one I'm after, to try to get a minute with Mears, and because he has what stories he'll have as well, right?
Speaking of Mario, he said that you hit the wall in the 2-seater.
Well, see, Mario. So I love Mario. Now, how about this? A kid from Idaho, that my dream was to make one Indy 500. Once I felt like that maybe I had the talent to be able to do it, I go, man, if I can make one Indy 500. Now, you got to remember, I'm hanging my best buddy and who I'm traveling with is Billy Vukovich III. Okay, so I know that he's getting the opportunities, and they wanted this big rivalry between Billy and I when we go to the racetrack. But we drove to the track together.
Right.
It's kind of hard to do that. But we were best buddies. We stayed at each other's houses. We traveled together. We'd always go at the exits because he didn't have money back then, either one of us really. So we'd always make sure when we traveled that we stopped at an exit that had a Taco Bell and a McDonald's, because I was a Taco Bell guy, he was a McDonald's guy, right? So we had to make sure that we could all eat at the same exit. But just learning, so I wanted to be in one Indy 500, and then be able to go there and beyond and drive for AJ Foyt. And now I call him my teammate with Mario Andretti in the 2-seater, and being able to be with him a lot and ask stories. Just being friends with those two guys is remarkable to me. And not just them, but, Al Sr., before he passed, and Bobby, we all, me being able, I just appreciate the history that they brought to our sport, because I feel that was the heroes of our sport, because they were there so long, they did it for so long. So actually, back to the question of me hitting the wall, right, in the 2-seater, he blames me for everything, right? We already know that I put some tires on, because let me tell you what.
We brought that up.
And he wants to be the fastest, right?
Yeah,
he does. And by God, he can be the fastest. He's 80. What is he? He's 82. Yeah. So there you go. Him and my dad, they still think they're kids, and they go for it, man. And and he's still a great driver, and just has a passion for it. He has a passion for motorsports like nobody I've ever seen ever. That Mario does, and still loves every aspect of it today. From, if there's a rule issue or if there's a safety issue, he doesn't mind getting involved because he wants the best for the sport. But yeah, he actually tagged the wall. It's been 2 or 3 different times, but every time they go, "Hey Mario, you got the one?" He goes, "That was Davey. It wasn't me." They go, "No, they said it was you." And then the last time I was sitting in the pits, I wasn't even in the car. I don't think it was. Yeah, that was Davey. I go, "I'm standing right here."
With conviction. Look at me. Look at me. Look at that car.
Yeah.
That was Davey.
Yeah.
So
He's selling it, man. He's selling it.
We love it. I love him, and we have a lot of fun doing that. What an opportunity to be able to give fans, media, and everybody rides. I mean, it's really a great opportunity, and have Mario do it, right? I mean, as you can imagine, most people want to go for a ride with Mario, but I always say, well, good luck, man. I don't know how his eyes are. I mean, if you really want to go, you go ahead and go.
I don't know if I should say this on camera or not, but I was given the opportunity, and I looked at both of them. I'm like, we're going around the speedway. So I'm just going to go with Davey. He's a little younger. We're going 180 miles an hour, man. I don't know when he's going to give up. But
you have to play around a little bit. So in Iowa this year, I gave the governor a ride for the fastest seat in sports. So the fastest, it's either Mario or myself that paced the IndyCar fields. So it was my turn to do it in Iowa. And she was really nervous. I mean, she was so nervous. And I go, don't be nervous. I go, we've done millions of them. I go, the only thing, I'm a bit hungover, but it usually doesn't affect me that bad. You know what I mean?
Hey, I've done that. I've done this before.
Throw him a little curveball.
Yeah.
David Hamilton in the studio with us. Stay with us. Things haven't always gone smoothly for him. He had one of the nastiest wrecks in all of IndyCar. We'll talk about it when we come back.
And the first thing I said is, man, I want to come back. I lied to everybody. I told them this is what the one and done, and I want to come back. And then Todd Bradley from Hewlett Packard said, well, if you want to do more, we're in. And 7 years, we had a 7-year relationship with him, so it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Wow.
We're having a great time here on the set of The Skinny. Ken Stout, Rico, Elmore. We have you. I know who you are. Davey Hamilton sitting right alongside.
I know you. I know you.
If he sees this show, he's going to kill us all. At any rate, so he's been extremely successful, super modifieds, as we talked about, and knows so many people in this industry. Everybody loves him. Just one of those guys. You see the personality. Everybody loves him, and a lot of success in IndyCar. I mean, second in the points on a couple of different occasions. Never got that win, but second a number of times on the racetrack. So you were really very good at what you did and very consistent, or you don't finish second in the points. But 2001, things got a little sporty. Talk to us about it.
Yeah. So that was part of IndyCar racing back then. It was it's not easy. I mean, we're going. Tony and I came in at the same time, and we battled for that championship.
Tony who?
Stewart. So,
but he cheated, right?
But that's right. We already know that. I already told you guys that.
Well, that was Chili Bowl. Chili Bowl cheated in.
He definitely cheated that IndyCar deal. I promise.
He would have won the championship if he had.
So Tony Stewart cheated?
Well, for sure he did. He was that. I mean, Larry Curry was over there. I love Larry. God bless his soul. But they did have some cheating going on there. But hey, we had fun. Tony was my friend. We ran hard together, and it was great. The two short track guys that came down to us two to win the championship, against all the IndyCar guys. So that was, big point in both of our careers. And but yeah, in 2001, it was one of those days. Things went bad, and it was a situation to where, ironically, it was Tony Stewart's car, not his. He wasn't driving. Jared Schroeder was driving for him, but blew an engine. And when it blew, he got in his own oil and turned. Barely clipped the back of my car, but when it did it got me airborne. And when I went over once I got airborne, I went over the fencing, over the wall, and through the fencing, I should say. And the poles, they're not made to hit. And when the front of the car hit, it sheared the front off. And fortunately, I had massive injuries to my legs, and they wanted to amputate them at one point. So, but I had no other injuries, which was good. But when you hear you may have your legs being amputated, things that's not a good thing to hear. Day. So bad day. And so. 21 surgeries, all the doctors, Dr. Scheid, Trammell, Weber, Bailey. I mean, I have loads of them to thank, and that all bailed in to put me back together. And they knew I was a racing driver. So when they heard amputation in Texas, where the accident happened, they said, no, let's get him to Indy. And that's what they did. And like I say, 2 years and 21 surgeries to that 2-year date was my final one, and having to learn how to walk again and go through the pain and agony of being human again, be able to walk again, be able to, just do everyday things. So, but in the back of my mind the entire time, it was like, I'm going to race again. But, you can't tell people that, especially my family. They're there.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, here they're driving me around.
But that was your internal motivation.
That was my internal, totally. My internal motivation was like, I want to get back in a race car again. And, things were going good at that point in my career. I mean, I had an offer. So that was the week after the Indy 500. We had the banquet is the day after the Indy 500. And I'm not going to mention, but I had opportunity with one of the better car owners to drive for him the following year full time. And so I was all, jazzed up and like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be.
This is my break.
This is my break. This is what's going to take for me to get to the next level. and start winning, not just being there all the time, but being able to win and win races and championships. And then that very next week, I get in that accident. So God works in mysterious ways, you know, but, you know, I was fortunate to survive it, number one. And then just went through the hard work. And internally, I knew I wanted to race again. Like I say, it took 6 years of hard work and trying to figure out how to get back in a car. And the two-seater really helped me because I called them and said, hey, I want to get back in a car. Can I at least drive the two-seater? And I didn't tell them I wanted to race. I just want to get back in a car. So that allowed me to work the pedals, figure out what I need to do with my feet, just give me some endurance where I was on that side of it. I was actually in pretty good shape because I worked out every day when I was hurt because I had nothing else to do. And then, I was very fortunate given a company came to Indy to do an event, and they were going to do the two-seater. And so I went and spoke to them the night before at a dinner and told them what to expect and what the Indianapolis Motor Speedway means and what it's about and the history of it and what they're going to expect that next day. So we did that. They show up the next day. We give rides, and one of the gentlemen comes up afterwards and goes, "Man, that was outstanding. That's a chance of a lifetime." And he goes, "Do you race?" I go, "Well, weren't you there last night?" I just went through the whole thing. He goes, "No, I just flew in this morning just for the ride." And
oh, wow.
And so I told him the story again a little bit, and I wanted to race, but I am not going to come back in just a partial car, or I want to come back and try to be able to win again. And so he gave me a card. He goes, you never know. Here's my card. And the following week, I sent a note to him, and it was a CEO of Hewlett Packard.
Oh, wow.
And they believed in me and believed in my story. And, I was able to Tony George, Vision Racing, said, he gave me the opportunity to drive for that team and teammate with Anthony Foyt and Ed Carpenter, and I think Schechter was one of them in that year. And so, it gave me the opportunity to come back and get in a car and Hewlett Packard. And I just wanted at that point, I was back to that one race, right? When I was young, I would go, man, if I could make one Indy 500. Well, that happened. And now it's back to being a kid. I go, man, if I could just run one more Indy 500. I just want to run one more 500. If I can just get through one more race. But then, I run in the top 5 majority of the day, and I'm competitive, and I'm having a blast out there on the track, and passing and just having fun. And unfortunately, the race got rain shortened, and it put me out of strategy just a little bit because of the rain. Dario won, but I still finished 9th, but I felt we had a top 5 in us if the race would have went on with our strategy, and but still a top 9, top 10 the first time, and so I'm thinking, okay, now how do I? And this is the first I get the checkered flag, going, dang, I could have been in the top 5. That told me right then I'm still hungry. I finished 9th. I'm content with that. But I had a shot. When you're entering the top 5, you never know. You have opportunity. And then down the back straightaway, I'm thinking, how am I going to tell everybody I'm going to keep racing? I want to keep doing this, right? Because I just told
you were convincing him it's just this one more time.
It's just one deal, and that's what I told the sponsors. What I told everybody, and. So got out of the car, and obviously the cameras were there. They wanted to interview me as well, not just Dario and the top 3 or 5. I got some good play out of it, and the first thing I said is, man, I want to come back. I lied to everybody. I told them this is what the one and done, and I want to come back. And then Todd Bradley from Hewlett Packard said, well, if you want to do more, we're in. And 7 years, we had a 7-year relationship with him, so it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Wow.
I remember we had you on this show when it was a podcast, and I remember your words. I'll never forget them. You said, I didn't want to end my career on the fence in Texas.
Yep, that's exactly right.
And that's goosebumps talking about it.
Yeah, that's as a very independent person, made a lot of stuff. Had to make it happen on my own. I didn't have the funding to go buy rides, or I didn't even know how to go get a sponsor. Really, to be honest with you, I just was a racing driver. I just wanted to race, and when that happens, and then you almost lose your life, and then as competitive as I was, thinking, it's just my feet. I want to race. I want to win again. And I was able to, able to come back and win races, and got back in super modified sprint cars and midgets, and did it all. Another big one was Turkey Night. That's a big one. I hadn't won it Turkey Night, so but I almost won that one as well.
We'll talk on that.
Yeah,
Give us just a minute, and we'll take a quick break here, and we want to hear about the Turkey Night.
Yeah. On 55-gallon drums of fuel, 2 of them. He had this steel lane on, and he goes, they're full, won't hurt him. And I go, well, he was just, I learned right then, AJ Foyt is absolutely crazy.
The Skinny is brought to you by General Tire. General Tire delivers. Toyota. Toyota. Let's go places. Lucas Oil. Lucas Oil. Keep that engine alive. And Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear. Hardcore since '04.
Welcome back to the Skinny. Davey Hamilton on the set with us here today was just about to tell a story about Turkey Night. And for those that aren't familiar with it, it's a massive race in the sprint car world, midget world, open wheel world. Everybody pays attention to it. Not Chili Bowl level, but not far off.
Not far off. That was the thing. The Turkey Night was everything in midget racing, and coming back to that race, won it in the sprint car, but it really didn't count. It really is a midget race, and so it was a 98 lap race, and we really dominated it most of the day. And this was after injury, after my comeback, and then I had like a half lap lead with only a few laps to go, and my little pal Chuck Gurney, who I used to sponsor when he was a kid, brought out a yellow flag where she should have just pulled in the infield. I always tell me, how come he just didn't pull in the infield? But anyways, Bobby Santos got me on the last. I got just a little bit tight, and Bobby got me, and then I ran second. So how close again, right? I've had a lot of wins, but I have a lot of important races I ran second.
Who did you run for there?
That was Argots. I ran for Argot that year, yeah.
Yeah, Ricky Argot,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
So to follow up, and we'll put a button on this story because I know you want to talk about Townsend Bell for a second. But talk to us about the injuries, sustained injuries to your feet and your legs. How are you now?
I'm great. I'm actually really doing well. So, the injuries, I have fused ankle. My left foot's completely fused. I have limited motion in my right. My biggest issue that I have in life that I always have is on my right heel. It tore the heel off. So there was a lot of skin graft on my heel, on the bottom of my foot. So it's like the top of your hand, not the pad on the bottom of your hand. So you can ulcer it fairly easy. So I have to have certain inserts. I can't walk barefoot. So I have my limitations, but I'm just used to it. So it doesn't bother me. I do I've been snow skiing. I do, pretty much everything I've done in the past. I just have to be careful because if that does ulcer, it's hard to heal. It's it's really hard to heal up, and so you have to get off your feet for a while. But it does happen every now and then. But I live life normal, man. I go after it. And
I see at the racetrack all the time. You never know. I mean, I know we all know. You walk a little bit funny, if you will. But I mean, given everything that happened, hats off to those doctors.
Oh, absolutely.
To think that some of them wanted to take the legs off, man, oh man, what a recovery.
He walks a little funny too, but we won't get into that.
That's true.
Well, we all walk a little funny. Just depends
I have
on.
no excuse. He has a great excuse.
When we go to trade shows,
He's got a cool excuse.
Right?
We don't.
Exactly.
And we like PRIs coming up in December, and everybody, they say, man, my legs are wore out. I go, don't even tell me. I don't want to hear it.
You and Don Garlitz have almost the same walk. I mean, both of you, superstars. So.
We call it the IndyCar Shuffle, and ours goes Foyt, Mears, a lot of us, Derek Daly, and I can go on and on. Jeff Andretti. We've all had the IndyCar. We call it the IndyCar Shuffle.
And the other description he has for race car drivers, he says they're hunched over and they've got flat butts.
Yeah, they're no ass at all. There's no ass at all disease.
No ass at all.
That's good.
Hey, we got to wrap things up here, but I want one AJ story before we leave.
Well, I have a lot of AJ stories, and some of them I definitely cannot tell you on air because we'd all be in trouble. But one of them I go to is he asked me to come. I was living in Vegas. He asked me to come to Texas, and I didn't know what it was for. And I think,
you said that was right after the season, right?
Yeah, after the season. I go, gee whiz, what's going to happen? I love the story because it's just AJ, but it's working on his bull. He had me come out there to work on his bulldozers, but he's cut. He says, you weld, I'll cut. And he had an inch thick piece of steel with a torch. It's like massive, and no safety glasses. And so I loaned him my glasses, and I think that's my best story. And it blew up. I mean, we ran out of argon, the thing blows up. I turn around and my glasses are smoking. So they were some brand new, at the time, Ray-Bans. They would have been fatheads if you were around, right?
But wasn't he cutting them on barrels?
Oh, on 55-gallon drums of fuel, 2 of them. He had this steel laying on, and he goes, they're full, won't hurt him. And I go, well, he was just, I learned right then AJ Foyt is absolutely crazy. So that I have a lot of stories with him, but that one there, I always say I saved AJ's eyes. I saved his eyes, right? So I have give me a little credit to help AJ out there a little bit, right?
Maybe down the road we'll tell that board meeting story as well about how you got that sponsorship. That ought to be an interesting.
Yeah, I can tell that one.
Until then, we'll leave you hanging. That's the Skinny on Davey Hamilton. Hope you enjoyed the show.